see dope people.
Welcome back to another episode of Dope People. I am your host, Hayden Green, Brooklyn's favorite polymath. Now, some of you may be wondering what I mean by dope, and I'm from the old school. So when I think of dope, I think of something that's amazing, something that's interesting, something that I really, really like. So when on this show, we simply interview dope people. And today, I have one of the dopest people that I know. Just a really amazing person, Miss Fredara Hadley, Dr. Fredara Hadley. Come on up to the stage. How are you, Fredara?
I'm good. Excited to be here. How are you?
I am doing well. So listen, if I am Brooklyn's favorite polymath, you are New York City's favorite ethnomusicologist. That's literally going to be your tagline. I'm claiming it. That's what we're going to call you from here on in. How are
I
you?
receive it. I'm doing very well.
Excellent. Well, Fredara, we start this show by asking a simple question. I'll try to get like a litmus test for how you understand the word dope. When you think of a dope person, who is the dopest person that you either know or have met in your life?
The dopest person I've met in my life, I would have to say, was my maternal grandmother.
Okay.
And what's interesting about her, she died when I was pretty young. I was like 9 years old. But I think about the history of this country, and I think about the history of my family, and I think about my grandmother, who was born in Edenton, Georgia, the same town Alice Walker's from, was an orphan, the eldest of 3 kids, and had to make a lot of unimaginable choices to make a life for herself. I feel like she bent the will of this country to make a life for herself, and not just for herself, but for her family, her husband, her daughter. And this woman, my grandmother, Mary Dotley Shannon, didn't go past like 6th grade. But because she had so much in her, and I'm heartbroken sometimes to think of what she could have become if this country were a better place, especially at that time, right? But because of who she was as a person, as a minister, as a community leader, my mother, her daughter, not only finishes high school, but goes on and becomes the first Black woman to earn a PhD in the state of Florida. And that's my mother's accomplishment, but I think it's a tremendous credit to my grandmother and who she was as a person. And then, when I was a kid, she lived with us and she was just fiery. Like, she was just fiery. And so as I get older, I think a whole lot more about her and how, at least my hope and prayer is that dopeness is certainly generational from her to my mother and hopefully on to me. So Mary Shannon is the dopest person I've ever known.
Now that's absolutely amazing. And I've met your parents, so that lineage is definitely in there. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing
that. For sure.
So so when I think of you, Fredara, we are friends. We are parts of different groups. You and my wife are sorority sisters, line sisters. But when I think of you, I think the dopest thing about it is that you put ethnomusicology on the map, right? And I will admit, I didn't know that was a thing before I met you, right? And since you've gotten your degree and have moved into, you have become the foremost authority on Black music, on music that is based in culture. And every time I turn on my TV, I was like, oh, there's Fredara again talking about this, or there's Fredara talking about choirs, and there's Fredara. But for a Black woman to be such a maven in this industry, I think is not just a remarkable thing, but an inspirational thing, because you know how it is, right? It's like, all right, how do you progress out of X or Y, or how do you carve your way in this world? And for a lot of Black people, it's like you go into law, you go into medicine, or you go into teaching, or you go into, there are really set ways. But for you to be so successful as an ethnomusicologist and teaching at Juilliard, and really, making sure that those feathers are ruffled properly at Juilliard, I think that that's absolutely dope, because that takes a lot of bravery. Because and I don't know and that's probably a conversation we should have at another time, but I don't know when you decided that this is what you were going to do, but that had to be an incredibly brave decision to make. So that's what I think is dope about you.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear like how other people see it, and it's deeply affirming. I would say two things. One, going back to lineage, I'm fortunate to be raised by parents, both my mother and my father, who were incredibly supportive of my making my own decisions about my life. I chose what junior high and high school I was going to go to, and they researched it, but ultimately agreed. I chose what college I was going to go to, and at every juncture, I have felt empowered to make decisions about my life in that way. They've been great counsel, but I've always felt empowered to make decisions. And the other thing I would say is I became an ethnomusicologist because I was a failed banker, right? Like I wanted to finance first, which is one of those routes you talk about that I just wasn't good at. And so the good and the bad thing about me is I'm only good at things I want to do. I'm not very good. And that, I'm not patting myself on the back about it. It just is. I'm not very good at convincing myself to do things that I probably should do, and I just don't want to do. And when I got fired, my dad was like, "You got to go to grad school," and I was like, "Well, I think the thing is that I don't like corporate America. I think that's the thing." And that led me on a path to becoming. It was one of my professors from Florida A&M actually who told me about ethnomusicology, and he said you need to study with a woman named Portia Maltsby, a Black woman from Florida who is the one we all look to and venerate. And I did study with her. And so I always say the success that I have in my career is a credit to how she trained me. As my major professor, I'm really fortunate to have someone of such a Black woman of such great stature show me how to do this kind of work. And I take Black people very seriously. I take Black music very seriously. I see it as a part of what is sacred about us. I've been fortunate to have a lot of peers, mainly Black women at different institutions, who we travel together on this road. And then my mother, as a retired English professor, kind of counseling me too on navigating higher education, because I didn't like corporate America, but I didn't know higher ed is its own entity with its own unwritten rules. And so I try always to show, when I'm talking about Black people and Black music, the love first and foremost, and the rigor of the study and how seriously I take it. And so whether I'm in class, teaching a class, I'm on TV, I'm writing something, that's what's at the center of my heart. I want Black people to know that I see us and I love us. And so that's my aim.
Thank you so much. That is dope. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, today we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. And I want to hear what thing you are doing that is dope. And we will be right back with Fredara Hadley. And we are back with Dope People again. I am your host, Hayden Green. Today I'm sitting in my office, so it looks a little bit different. I'm not wearing a t-shirt. I'm wearing my nice wooden bow tie because, I have to get dressed up for our guest today. And we are back with Dr. Fredara Hadley. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, Fredara, I need to know from you what you are doing that is dope. Now, it could be something that you do on a regular basis where yeah, you know, you train people on the cello every Sunday at the Boys and Girls Club, or it could be that one-time thing where I showcase my talents on CBS as part of a panel, right? Like, what dope thing are you doing for there?
The dope thing I'm doing is my ongoing research in the book that I'm writing about the musical impact of HBCUs. As you know, Hayden, and the book is called I'll Make Me a World, which comes from the James Weldon Johnson poem, The Creation. It's a line from that poem. But as you know, I'm a proud HBCU graduate, Florida A&M University undergrad.
Go
I come from
Rattlers.
HBCU, go Rattlers. I come from an HBCU family. I did a master's at Clark Atlanta University. And for the last few years, yes, it's been quite a journey already. I've been researching how it doesn't matter what genre of American music, Black American music, especially, you think about, HBCUs have played a role in it, both historically and in lots of ways contemporary as well. And so I have been overwhelmed in the best way about how profoundly American music has been shaped by HBCUs, and that story isn't told anywhere. And so, you know, one of my favorite facts is if you think about somebody like James Brown, two of his most important musical collaborators, Maceo Parker and Fred Wesley, are HBCU graduates. So here you got the godfather of soul pulling these musicians from HBCUs to work with him. If you think about jazz, the great trumpeter Donald Byrd started the jazz program at Howard, started the jazz program at North Carolina Central, taught at Delaware State. Of course, HBCU bands, Greek life, fraternities and sororities, Negro spirituals. We wouldn't have them as songs that we sing on concert stages if it weren't for the Fish Jubilee Singers. And so I've been really fortunate to work with our mutual friend, Andrea Jackson Gavin, and doing a symposium about this a few years back. I've written and lectured about it in different spaces. Even the concert I curated at Juilliard this past February, called Claiming Your Space, a celebration of Black music at Juilliard, was based on a concert called the Negro Music that happened at Juilliard in 1934.
Yes.
And most of those students who performed on the 1934 concert 90 years ago were actually HBCU graduates who had come to Juilliard for graduate school. And so I have been delighted and amazed. Freaknik shows up, obviously, in the book because it has to. It shows up.
No pictures, right?
No pictures, but you gotta talk about. You can't write about this and not talk about Freaknik. You just can't. So this is the one thing I feel like I must complete in the story I must tell and share. And so the writing has been difficult and beautiful at the same time because there's just so much to say. But that's the dope thing that I'm working on, and hopefully the book will be done soon and out in the world.
Oh, that is amazing. I cannot wait to read that. And you're absolutely right. Like, so when you think about HBCUs, at least from our HBCU, what we think of is the bands, right? Like we go to like games and there'll be battle of the bands, and people are like, well, what was the score? I was like, well, this band won over that band. I was like, no, the football game. What? There was a football game? Right. So
right.
It is very much a musical environment, and I'm so happy you're engaging on that project. I think that is absolutely a story that needs to be told. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I try to end every show with a dope moment in time, and because you are all about music, I had to find something that had to do with music. So in 1957, the Queen. There was a band that played for the last Queen Elizabeth, and it was the first band that had ever played for the Queen. Can you guess what the name of that band was, or whose band that was? 1957, major band.
I cannot.
I love stumping.
Duke Ellington.
That's a really great guess. And if you weren't picking Duke Ellington, you would have probably picked Count Basie.
Basie! the Basie band.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
So
I would also like to say Count Basie played at Florida A&M University as well. So
see it all full circle. All comes full circle. Well,
love that.
It has been an amazing time here talking with you. You are truly a dope person. Fredara, if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Fredara, same as Threads. Holler at me on Facebook. Shout me out. I tend to write little short, punchy pieces. And look forward to a new Fredara.com coming later this month.
Nice. Well, we have been blessed to have you. And for those of you who listen to the podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you know somebody who is a dope person that should be on this podcast, please reach out and we will get them on. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, save, send it to a friend, send it to anybody that needs to hear about this stuff. And we will be back next week with another dope person. Sarah, thank you so much. And we will catch you later. Everybody, go forth and be dope.